everybody. Welcome to our live today. We are talking overcoming sales objections. If you've been in my space for a while, you know that I really love mastering the skill of overcoming sales objections because we all need to be able to feel like we can close with confidence. And it's hard when you're doing a sales call and it seems like it's going really, really well and you're getting more excited and they're getting more excited. And then you come to price and all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's really expensive. And you don't know where to take it or what to say. And you feel a little bit like held hostage to the sales objection. So that's what we're going to move through. And I think this particular sales objection feels very real when you get it. Some of the other ones you're like, you just put me off. It's not a big deal. But this one, for some reason, you get it and it can feel like the golden gates are closing, you know? So for those of you that are watching live, I would love for you to type into the chat and just say live so I know who's here. And then those of you who are watching the replay, go ahead and type in replay so that I know who watched it live, who watched it after. And let's jump into this topic. So we've been covering overcoming objections. This is not like a new topic. We've been doing this for a while now. And you all know that I have a 4-part strategy that we use when we're overcoming objections. So I'm going to start off with that. Then what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the psychology, the mindset behind this. And then we're going to come back and we will actually go through the scripting for this objection. So again, every objection you can overcome with these 4 things. Number 1 is you acknowledge what they just said. Number 2 is you ask a question to open them up and make them more willing to keep the conversation going. Number 3, you are going to get permission to then go into number 4, which is you're going to share more information. We're going to follow the same process just like we do every single time. But here's why this one is different. Here's why it feels different. Because this one, when someone says, I can't afford it, it like pings us and it connects to an old story, an old experience, and it connects to our own scarcity. So I'm not saying that there aren't super rich people in the world who have never had a day in their life where they felt like they couldn't pay their bills or they felt like they couldn't afford something. But most of us have had that experience, that feeling. When the budget was tight, when we didn't have the money, we didn't have the resources, we couldn't access what we wanted. And so that story that they tell us, their story connects to our story. And because when we were in the middle of our story of scarcity, lack, and poverty, it felt so absolute. It felt so all-consuming. It felt like the gospel law written in stone. We project that onto their story. But here's the thing I want to remind you of, and I tell this to my clients all the time. Stories are expensive and you can't afford to buy them, okay? Repeat that after me. Type that into the chat. Stories are expensive and you can't afford to buy them. So the reality is that even when we were in our story, it was still just a story. And that wasn't necessarily like the ultimate thing or the rule, or it was just not the reality. It was how we felt about the reality. So I want to give you a couple of examples of this so you can kind of start to, because we've got to get around that absolutism. And do you guys know what I'm talking about? Let me know if this is making any sense. Do you know what I'm talking about? How it just feels so absolute. Like it feels like it must be true. We must believe it. Like that has to be real. I know when I was in my space where I was the struggling new entrepreneur and I was struggling to pay my bills, it felt like we just did not have money and we didn't have access to any money. And that felt completely true. Okay, now let me just tell you that belief perpetuated that reality. The fact that I felt like I had no money meant that I made really bad business decisions because I made all my business decisions on the assumption that I had no money, so I was stuck and I couldn't do anything to move forward, which then perpetuated the result. So in a previous video, we talked about that thoughts generate your emotions determine your actions, and your actions create your results. So my pervasive thought was, I don't have money, I can't afford it. So then my feeling was hopelessness. So then when I would take action in my sales conversations, I was like feeling desperate and hopeless and like I was not going to be able to afford my life and feed my family. And so then the result was nobody wanted to buy from me. So it's like self-fulfilling prophecy, right? When my business started to really shift and when I really started to make like a big turnaround, nothing was different except my thoughts and my emotions. So my actions were different, so I created different results. But my scenario was the same. Like it wasn't like I made more money first and then I found my confidence. It didn't happen that way. It happened the other way. I found my confidence. I worked on my belief. I started making better decisions. I started making decisions based on what was right for my business, not based on what I could afford. In fact, I did some things that I really couldn't afford, and they dramatically increased my income. When I was launching Amy Walker Consulting, I signed up for a 25K program, and I was peeing my pants scared, you guys. I didn't actually pee my pants, but I was so scared. I don't know if I've ever been so scared in my life. And I did it, and that taught me all the actions that I needed to take. And that year, I paid off the 25K program, and I had done 110,000 in sales. So what was my profit on that? 85,000. Like I made $85,000 because I shifted the broken thinking, right? We have to shift the broken thinking. So what happens when you get this response is that it's their broken thinking connecting to your broken thinking, and it takes you back to that place. You know what I mean? That place when you were the one who couldn't afford it. And you were the one who couldn't see any way out. And so what it does is it plays on our heartstrings, and it makes us want to do one of a few things. It makes us either want to go, oh, you know what, I totally understand, no big deal. Feel free to reach out in the future. Can I ever serve you? Like, I'm happy to help. This isn't just like a one-time deal. I literally had this sales pitch yesterday. It wasn't because I couldn't afford it. I just did not want it. I don't love decorating and I'm not fussy, and someone was trying to sell me wreaths and I don't want one. But as soon as I gave her the first objection of like, yeah, I'm probably not interested right now, she's like, okay, no big deal. Like, she didn't try to overcome my objection at all. She just was like, done. As soon as I said the first, like, I don't know, I'm not really a decorator, done. So when that happens and they say I can't really afford it, and then it just goes to immediately like, okay, well, we're done. That's one option. The other place that it takes you to is like, I need to help them. And so they tell you they can't afford it, and you're like thinking discounts, you're thinking extended payment plans, you're thinking, how can I make this work? You know, like, what can I do to accommodate, instead of trying to break through the stories. So, and then is there a third thing that people do? Well, the third thing is that they learn how to overcome this objection. That's really what the third thing is. So are you with me on this? If you're with me and this is making sense, just type in, I get it. Because I want to know if this is making sense. This is a little bit of a trickier one, because you really have to overcome yourself in order to overcome their sales objection. So just let me know, type in the chat if you get it, if you're with me, and then we can talk about how do we shift beyond this. All right. The first thing that I will tell you in terms of how we shift beyond our own story is that I believe in working in the external world and working in the internal world at the exact same time. It helps us to create results faster, they're longer lasting, it's easier, it's not as much work. So I'm going to give you the internal work and I'm going to give you the external work. The internal work is that you're going to go back to that time and where you were, who you were, how you felt, everything you believed, and you're going to rewrite the story. So if I look at my time of being the struggling entrepreneur, what I thought in the beginning, okay, here's what I thought in the beginning. I thought, I'm broke, I can hardly pay my bills, there's absolutely no way that I could invest money into my business or learning better skills. Like, I just cannot do it, or like, we're not going to have electricity because I would literally be using my power bill money to pay for business. That was the story of what I believed. Okay, if I go back and I rewrite this story, here's what it looks like. Amy's terrified. Amy doesn't believe in herself. Amy is taking consistent action while feel like having her head completely full of fear and doubt and scarcity and lack. And what I would rewrite that story as is I would give Amy permission to move forward. I would give Amy permission to believe in herself. I would give Amy permission to like catch a glimpse of how successful she's going to be and how worth it it's going to be. And I would just give her like permission, grace, and courage. And so I would rewrite that story. Funny thing is, when my business actually started to shift, that's exactly what I did. But I still have the old story that precedes the transformation. So go back to the place where you were stuck financially and you were in your stories. The next thing that I want you to do is I want you to work on the external. So the external is actually having the process in place to overcome this objection. The first part of that is recognizing that this is a story for them. Last week was a super fun week. We had, I think I mentioned, by super fun, like that's quotations, right? We had on Monday, we got this letter from our financial planner saying they were drafting $9,000. And at the same time, from our account, and at the same time, we got another, like a Facebook bill for $4,000 that just was flopping. It wasn't even producing anything. And so I was having one of those money days where I was like, oh my gosh, I have no money. And I felt myself kind of going into that story of like, I have no money, I'm feeling panicky. And then I had to like pause and just go, okay, this is a story. This is the reality. First of all, why would we have had no idea that our company is getting ready to draft $9,000 when we thought it was $1,000? Why don't we call them and find out what's up? It was totally a mistake, you guys. They were not supposed to draft $9,000, and they were able to cancel it, and like they were able to draft the amount they were supposed to draft. So phew. Okay, the Facebook ads, that was legit, that was real. But I was able to, because I didn't get pulled into my story, I was able to go into what do I want to create as my new story. So my reality can shift from one of scarcity into one of abundance. So I was like, all right, what does this abundance story look like? Well, what it looks like is me looking for where are my opportunities to help and to serve. And so I did that, and I started having conversations, and now I've got pending sales that I'm hoping will close this week. I've got, I increased my registrations to my event by about 100 last week. So that's future deals and future business. So we have the same reality, but two very different stories, right? Like the same facts. I got the email saying I owed $9,000 and they were drafting it today. I had to pay payroll last week. I also had the $4,000 Facebook ads bill. Like that was all true. But the story around it, very, very different. So the first thing you do is you start recognizing that stories are just stories. And so when somebody tells you, it sounds really great, but I just can't afford it, awesome. That's just a story. We're not going to stop when that point happens. We're going to allow ourselves to continue to move forward, because I have so much compassion for these people that I'm trying to close. I get it. I know what it feels like to feel like you're stuck because money and time are these two bullies that won't let you get towards what you want to get to. And they stand in your way every time you try to move forward. I know what that feels like. And I have too much compassion and too much care to let people stay in their story. You with me on that? Write that down, you guys. I have too much compassion and too much care to let people stay in their story. We think we're doing them a favor by buying their story and being like, okay, well, you know what? Thank you so much for your time today. And let me know if there's anything that I can help you with. I'd be happy to, blah, 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 blah. No, we are not serving them by letting them stay in their story. We are serving them when we help them move through their story and we help them create the result that they have told us that they wanted, right? Like, when somebody comes to me, I'm doing a sales call and they tell me, Amy, I really want to build my business to 6 figures. That's their goal. I didn't make it up. I've never once made up a goal for somebody else, but I am dedicated to helping them get that goal. So that's what my job is. Get them out of their stories. So now let's talk about the scripting. Is this all making sense, by the way, you guys? If you're digging this, just type in, this is helping, or you can even just do helpful. Type in helpful if this is giving you some good ideas. All right, let's talk about the scripting here and then we'll wrap up for today. So the scripting is very simple. When somebody says, this sounds really great, I can't afford it. I say, okay, so what I'm hearing is you really want to move forward, you really want the help, you're committed to it, but you're not sure how you're going to finance finance it. Is that correct? And when they say yes, then I say, okay, great. So let me ask you a question. Do you feel like this is the right program for you? Like, have we hit the deliverables on the head? A lot of times, and this is why this question is so important with this particular one, a lot of times we miscalculate it and we're actually trying to oversell them. So we're selling them a service level higher than what is a fit for them, budget-wise and needs-wise. And so when you say that, if they say, you know, it actually kind of feels like a little too much, I don't know that I'm ready for it, then we'll say, okay, that's such good information. Do I have permission to share with you my entry-level program? Because I think that if we're a little too high here, that's probably going to be a great fit for you. And then when they say yes, you can go into whatever that downsell is, okay? Now, if that's not the case and they say, no, this program, it honestly sounds like exactly what I'm needing, or this product, it sounds like exactly what I'm needing, but I just don't have the money for it, then I'll say, okay, well, can I ask you another question? If you had the money, and sometimes I ask this on the first one too, either way, I've got to get to, am I overselling them? Because if I'm overselling them, then that's my mistake that I made, and I need to get the right program that fits their needs and their budget. But if I've not done well with my assessment and got too excited and I'm overselling, I'm going to need to move down. But I like this question too. This is a really good one to say, so can I ask you a question? If we could figure out the financing and you didn't have to worry about the funds, is this the right program for you? I like asking it that way too. And if they say yes, then I'll say, okay, well then do I have permission to share with you some options for how we can get you funded? And if they say yes, then I can go into what my options are. Okay, you guys, if you are coming and joining us for our Acquire 2-day event, one of the things that I'm going to do for you is I'm going to share with you some options for third-party funding companies that will work with you to get your people funded to pay you. Because then it takes funding out of the way, and they can work with people who have credit scores down as low as like 580. So there are options for funding that you might just not know about. But when we get to those funding options, that's going to look like, do you have third-party financing available? Do you have in-house financing available? Can you do, payment plans? What do they have access to? Like, you're going to get into that problem-solving place. And this is my favorite line of all to use. So I'll say, when they say, yeah, we can brainstorm, I'll say, great, because I would hate if money was the only thing that stopped you from getting whatever is that thing that's so important to them. So if it's like, I really want to grow my business, that's awesome. I'm so glad we can brainstorm, because I would hate if money was the only thing that stopped you from hitting 6 figures this year, because I know you can do it. And then we can go in and we can brainstorm, like, what is going to be a payment arrangement that fits for them. Okay, here is my pet peeve, and we'll end on this today. I cannot stand when people use shark-like sales financing tactics, okay? If you wouldn't want this loan and you don't think it's a good loan for you, it's not a good loan for your people. If I don't ask people to, and now I don't control how people choose to do their financing, right? But I don't ask people to put their business or their livelihood or their family or their home in danger. I am actually looking for a good financing option for these clients. And you being aware of that is incredibly valuable and incredibly important to help drive them towards the easiest possible place for them to get the funding that they need. So if you're not signed up yet, make sure that you get signed up for Acquire. It's on Thursday and Friday. We're teaching you how to set up your marketing for the whole year. We are teaching you about how to help scale your marketing and sales through inexpensive hiring of virtual assistants. We're teaching you about how to create marketing workflows. We're teaching you how to build your sales system, write your sales scripts, get your sales team in place. I am going to show you options for how you can get funding for your clients, because then you can, that can really open up sales when there's an easy way for clients to pay you. So link is in the comments. Actually it's not yet, but we will put the link in the comments. Make sure that you get registered. We have about 40 spots left, and I do think that